Good morning. Good morning. This is Valerie Leonard. I am having issues with my camera. Can you at least hear me? Um, if you can hear me, please type and confirm that you can hear. Okay, great. All righty. I do apologize. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the video. It was working earlier this morning. It didn't stop until I wanted to go live. There were a couple people that I wanted to bring on live. It doesn't appear that I can do that. I will try, but right now I want to get through this presentation and then I will try to bring them on screen. And if not, not to worry, we definitely will have a show dedicated for Dan Basil as well as Leighton Olson. They have a lot of really good information to share that would be very, very helpful in the event of unplanned emergencies, disaster recovery. It's amazing how asset mapping can play a vital role in disaster recovery. So without further ado, I just want to get started. I do apologize that, I'm about 13 minutes late, but I want to go ahead and do this. I think it's really, really important to do this because this seemingly minor virus has just grown exponentially, and it seems to have the potential to disrupt the world. As we're seeing, we're seeing problems with transportation, we're seeing problems with business interruption, our markets, our public safety, just everything. So I think it's really important for us to get together, see what one another is doing in terms of coping with these business interruptions, and then share with you an outline for business interruption. And then we will try to bring on Dan Basil as well as Leighton Olson, maybe not at the same time. And it may or may not work. Just because my video is having problems doesn't necessarily mean that theirs are. And before I turn, I just want to make sure that you guys can at least see the slides. I just want to verify that you can see the slides. Can someone say, yes, you can see my slides? Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. All righty. All right, just a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you, Lizzie. The way this is set up, you'll see on the right, there's a chat room. I have a number of links to resources. The really, really good stuff is there's a link to a box folder where I have pulled information from other sources. I was clear to cite the sources. And there's also a workbook, and I don't even want to call it a workbook. It's really a resource guide. If you have time right now, you should download that guide and follow along. This presentation somewhat mirrors that guide, and at the end of that guide, you will see notes, so you can jot notes as we go along. And I would really, really be interested too in hearing what you guys are doing and how you're coping, any questions you might have. If you have questions, there is a ask the question link down at the bottom of the forum. Ideally, you should put your question there, and the advantage to putting your question there is, if you go back and look at the replay, you can follow and go to the exact point of where I answer specific questions. So they'll always be recorded. You don't necessarily have to guess at what point I answer the questions. Okay, and you can still feel free to participate in the chat room, greet one another, make comments. If there's something that you don't understand or whatever, let me know and I will try to clarify it. All right. And if you are watching from Facebook Live, that is, if the feed is still going, I know it took a long time, you can join us here at Crowdcast if you want to have access to the downloads. We're crowdcast.io/e/nonprofit management -n, and that's IN as an N. All right, and then for the folks who are watching on YouTube Live, the same instructions for you. You can comment. I won't see the comments until after the Crowdcast, but whatever comments you make, I will be sure and respond. All righty, so without further ado, I just want to tell you a little bit about Nonprofit Utopia. We're the ideal community for emerging nonprofit leaders, and we've created a safe space where folks can share ideas, share conversations such as the one that we're having today, and speak very candidly about the issues that you're having. And what goes on in Nonprofit Utopia stays in Nonprofit Utopia. And our mission is to develop the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And we try to create an environment where more seasoned professionals such as myself can share ideas with younger professionals, and have a cross-pollination of learning. And the overarching goal of the community is to give our members the tools, that they need, and share tools to develop strong organizations as they develop themselves. And the overall goal is to make strong impacts to our clients and communities. And our vision is to strengthen the global nonprofit sector by providing training and development opportunities for up to 50,000 people between now and 2033. You want to find out more, you can visit nonprofitutopia.com or nonprofitutopia.mn.co. If you feel so moved, you can join Nonprofit Utopia today. We have a call to action button at the bottom of the forum. And just a little bit about myself. I am a consultant. I work with organizations to help them solve some of their most pressing problems. And at the same time, I have also founded the Nonprofit Utopia community. And you just heard about Nonprofit Utopia. I also teach nonprofit management at UIC and courses also in social enterprise at Roosevelt University. And I have an undergraduate degree in economics and a graduate degree in finance and marketing. So I have a pretty well-rounded background and years of working in nonprofit, also having run a nonprofit myself. So the reason we're here is we see that the coronavirus is changing our lives as we know them, and we seem to have to be adjusting to yet another new normal. We're changing the way we socialize. We're changing about how we learn. We're thinking differently about our health and safety, and hopefully more aware. We are changing the ways we travel, how we gather, how we get our work done, and even our voting. And unfortunately, our pocketbooks are being hit. All signs are pointing to having to adjust, as I said before, to yet a new normal. And in the meantime, you've got a nonprofit to run and people to serve, and they're certainly not going away. In fact, the needs are greater. What do you do in this age of coronavirus to make sure that you can minimize the impact, the negative impact of the outfall of the coronavirus pandemic, but at the same time, maximize the impact, or optimize at this point, the impact of what you can do in this new age? So we got a lot to cover. We'll be giving a basic overview of the coronavirus, and I just want to make it clear, I am not trained as a medical professional. Any information I'm sharing from reliable sources. I'm not trying to editorialize or any of that good stuff. So we're going to talk about some of the latest developments. And if you know of links to resources, please feel free to share them in the chat room. If you know of agencies we need to be aware of, if there are things that your agency is doing that we need to be aware of, please let us know. And if you want to put it in terms of a question, you can, just so we know exactly at what point we have acknowledged the fact that your agency or your resource has been talked about in this forum. So we're also going to share news sources and health agencies and other resources, strategies and resources you can use to prepare your work environment, and plans in place. Put plans in place in the event that you have to stop work due to the emergencies, and I think we're there. And then ways to get the work done and ways to stay in touch with your clients, funders, and the communities that you serve to the best of your ability within the context of the new rules. So what exactly is a coronavirus? And I think I have a misspelling there, but okay, great. Thank you, Dan. I will definitely share that. For those of you who are watching on YouTube or Facebook, Dan Basil is telling us that he posted a blog article yesterday with links to some learning resources that parents can draw from during the time schools and non-school programs are closed to them. Awesome, awesome. And Dan, you can take a deeper dive into that when I call you out, and then also even deeper when you come on at a time that we have to schedule. So basically, the coronavirus pandemic is a pandemic of coronavirus disease as of 2019, and it's also known as COVID-19, and is caused by the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, which is SARS-CoV-2. And the disease was first identified in Wuhan, Hubei, China in December 2019. And the source for that information is wikipedia.org. And the source of this information is Business Insider. There's a great article that they shared this morning indicating that when the coronavirus started, it impacted Asian countries for the most part, including China and Japan. And that was back in December. And as of January 20th, it was actually impacting 4 countries. And now, as of March 10th, the impact has grown to 109 as of March 10th. Here it is, March 18th. There may be even more countries. So as of Tuesday, March 18th, 2020, more than 197,000 coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide, and at least 7,900 people have died in total. Italy has the highest number of cases and deaths outside of China. More than 31,000 people have gotten sick in China alone, and 2,500 have died, and that number grows by the hour. And that information is from Business Insider. So you can see this thing is taking legs, and some might say wings. All right, so what is the foundation world doing? One example comes from the Phil Foundation, and you have a full copy of Angelique's email in your handouts. It's in the workbook. I just thought I would share some excerpts from a beautiful article she wrote, something that would be the most relevant for us now. She's saying that We should call or email them at Field and others within the philanthropic space. Their program officers are in constant dialogue with many of you, with others in philanthropy, and are here. Reach out to us and let us know what you need and how we can help. Many of those clunky conference calls resulted in new funds that are being created as we speak. Look for an announcement Monday, spearheaded by the Chicago Community Trust and the United Way, to learn more about one such fund aimed at helping this in this moment. And keep in mind, there are also conversations about the need to remove expectations on grant reports, shift deadlines, make grants unrestricted if not already, and deepen existing support to nonprofits. This is while foundation endowments are in a tailspin. So just remember, foundations get a lot of their money from the financial markets, so they are, grappling as well. And she tells us, hold tight, hold each other tight. And throughout this message, she reminds us to hold tight. Okay? So that is one example of what we can expect in terms of a response from philanthropy. And she was indicating that the Field Foundation is not the only foundation. Now, here are excerpts from a message. Again, this message is found in the workbook or the resource guide. And this is from David Hanrahan. He's the Chief Human Resources Officer at Eventbrite. So in summary, he was basically saying, take time to dedicate to your virtual team bonding and maintain social connection with your coworkers. So it might not be in the physical space, but it can be obviously virtual, and virtual could include telephone or computer. You will structure your workday much like you would at the office and take breaks to keep up healthy habits and stay sane. So physically healthy habits such as responsible eating and exercise, and sometimes meditation, just to keep your head clear, because there's a lot of information that's changing rapidly and a lot of it is negative. So we've got 5 tips for leading through rapid change. And I'm warning you, there's a very long article. It's about 5 pages, maybe 6 pages in the workbook, but it's very good stuff. And this is from Reverend Kerry Newhoff. He is the founding pastor of Connexus Church in Barrie, Ontario. And in summary, he's saying that motivation alone doesn't work on externally imposed change like the coronavirus, right? Great leadership embraces both the real and the ideal, and leaders need to be the first to change and not the last. You should sift through your motives, process your emotions as you help others process theirs. And I thought that was really good and interesting coming from a man, and forgive me if that is a sexist comment. All too often in our society, especially if you are of a certain age like I am, we're told that men have to be stoic and hold on to their emotions and not let them show, especially if they're in leadership. But what he's saying is, it's okay to be self-aware of your emotions as you help others heal. And then this is a screenshot of an email that I got from Rashida Washington. She is the owner of Live Exclamation. And, and I guess that's a short way or a long way of saying live out loud, right? And I really thought that her email was inspiring. I have a copy of that in the workbook that you can read. I know no one can read that small type. And basically, she's telling us that she is making the most of her downtime. She's sharing a message of comfort. She's letting her customers know how she's spending her time. She's using it very productively. She is, relaxing, but not to the point where she's not doing any work, but she's also preparing for that time when she can open again. So she's sprucing up her place in anticipation for the eventual return. But at the same time, she has not stopped business altogether, right? She may have closed her physical shop, but she has an online store and she is selling her products online. She's encouraging people to join her club and all that good stuff. And this next example is from Pastor Chris Harris. He's the president and CEO of Bright Star Community Outreach. And again, if there's anything that you have questions about, please feel free to post and ask a question. If you have comments, you can post them in the chat room as well. If you've got resources to share, please share those links. And if you're listening in YouTube Live or on Facebook Live and you want to join us, you can. We're at crowdcast.io/e/nonprofit-management-in. So this is a screenshot of an email that I got from Pastor Chris Harris. He's the president and CEO of Bright Star Community Outreach. And basically, he's letting us know that he's expanding hours for the trauma hotline. He's keeping people informed of the latest developments in his, not only with his organization, but of other resources. And he's also raising funds. So people are finding tasteful ways to ask for help. We all need help right about now. And then my question to you, and please respond, this should be interactive. Are you ready for business interruption? And if so, what are you doing during this time of quote unquote rest? And some might even call it a period of unrest. So what are you doing to cope? And, those who are listening on Facebook and YouTube, please feel free to share your thoughts as well. And I'll comment after this is over. All right, so at this point, I want to give you an overview of business continuity planning. This is something I know most of my clients don't have in place. I deal with a lot of emerging groups, and quite frankly, a number of established organizations probably hadn't thought about continuity planning before now. So basically, when we talk about continuity planning, we're talking about ways to anticipate those circumstances out of our control, right, that could cause an unexpected and extended disruption of business. It makes provisions to minimize the risk and losses. It provides alternative strategies for accomplishing the organizational goals that you had set already. And quite frankly, you're probably going to have to set even more goals and objectives in light of this crisis. You might have to replace some of the old goals, right? So this is just one method. There are many ways that you can do this, but I got this particular image from Quora, and I'll be sharing examples from another source afterwards. But, you start with the analysis of the situation, you design the solution, you develop implementation plans, and then you test them, and then you adjust them as need be for ongoing maintenance. So that's just one framework. Everybody is going to have a different framework, but regardless of who you are, what your framework is, the people who should be involved should be, one, the incident commander, And I'm sure there's not a particular job description called incident commander. That could be your point person. And this is the person responsible for all aspects of an emergency response. You will have your emergency response team, and this is usually a group of key leaders. So this is the group of people in charge of responding to an emergency or disruption. Usually you want to have representatives from each of your major stakeholder groups, so within and without your organization. You want to have an information technology recovery team. And if you're too small to have a team, you at least want to have thought about how you're going to recover your technology. So this is the group or the person, depending on how small your organization is, responsible for recovering all important IT services. And then you want to also look at alternate site and locations and operations teams, so alternate sites and locations operation teams. And this refers to the group responsible for maintaining business operations at an alternate site. So as it stands now, in many cases, our alternate site is our homes. So I'm hearing and observing that a number of people are figuring out ways to network, I guess, across departments and whatnot while everybody is at home. They can't meet in the physical space. And then you have to have your department upper management. And these, again, are the key stakeholders. You want to conduct a business impact analysis. And, given the frenzy that we're in, you're not going to have the luxury of time to go as deeply as you should. I would recommend that once we get out of crisis mode, that whatever you come up with, that you take a deeper dive and have a plan in place for the next time, because this is not going to be the last time we have such a crisis, right? So you ask yourself, what could go wrong? How will programs be impacted? What about your clients? How are they going to be impacted? How do you minimize the impact to them? How do you maintain relationships not only with your clients, but with your boards, funders, and other key stakeholders in the community? And, your vendors. What about operations? What about your facilities? What happens when the facilities are on lockdown and everybody is working from home? Will there be one person who comes and checks the facilities? Will there be a skeleton crew of people who go to the facilities? Every organization is going to have their own plan. What about contracts? Will your will you be able to deliver on your contracts? If not, then you need to make sure that you get a hold of your funders and and let them know what your alternative plans are. Likewise, if there are people that need to provide you services and there are contracts, can they fulfill them? Will you find yourself in a frenzy of renegotiating your contracts based on the new normal? What are the implications for marketing? What are the new messages that you're going to have to share? What are the messages you're going to have to share in terms of crisis management? And, different organizations are impacted differently. How about fundraising? What about human resources? What about other administrative functions? Again, every organization is different, and we do have templates that will help you to think through this in much more detail. And you're always wondering, what's the impact to the bottom line? So you should always be preparing cash flow projections and looking at best case, worst case scenarios. Get a sense for how much cash you have on hand, and realistically, how long can you remain in operations before you too have to close your doors? And I just hope and pray that it does not come to that, but that is a very likely consideration for everyone, small business owners, like myself, etc., etc. So for every problem or issue, you need to make sure that you have a solution or a plan of action. So what are some of the traditional elements of a business continuity plan? And again, this is going to vary from organization to organization based on your structure, based on the business that you're in. So regardless, you should always have the business name. And we have some templates from smartsheet.com, which I think are really, really helpful. You want to include your purpose and scope. You want to include policy information, emergency management and response. You want to look at your business impact. What will be the impact to your business? And for nonprofits, you want to look at, again, your programs. You want to look at the administration and the bottom line. You want to assess the risks. And then you want to also make sure that you have a business continuity plan with step-by-step instructions. And then you want to attach relevant appendices that will have either a policy or procedure and or both for every operation or every process that's going to be impacted. And again, this is good sound business practice that we should be doing anyway, but we never get around to because we're so busy running our operations, right? But it's time now that we start thinking about, some of the worst case scenarios. And smartsheet.com also shared resources that are very good. These people are very used to preparing for disaster recovery. So they should have a ton of resources on their websites. So this would be places like the National Fire Protection Association, DRI International, FEMA, and then the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. All right, so at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions. If you have any questions, please post in the Ask a Question segment. If you have comments, please post in the comment section. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to attempt, while you're thinking of your questions, I also encourage you to post in a chat room any resources that you can share with others that will help us get through. If you are working on something and you find that it's working for you as you adapt, and please feel free to share that with us. At this point, I'm going to attempt to bring Dan Basile on screen and see how that works for us. Okay, so I have just invited Dan, and he should be seeing a prompt. So he's accepted, he's connecting, and hopefully momentarily we can pull him on screen and he can just share some of his thoughts. I want to, yeah, this is awesome. Hi, May.
Are you seeing? Can you hear? Can you hear?
I can hear you. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You know what? I can hear you, but I cannot see your video.
My video is not connected.
Oh, okay.
Can you see my screen?
No, I can't see your screen. Are you trying? Are you in the share screen mode?
Where is it?
Let's see. Try looking at the top of your screen. You might see three icons. One says HD, another is an arrow or something. That arrow Should allow. Okay, you don't see that?
I'm doing it.
Oh, okay.
No, I do it. I'm working on it right now.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Can you see my screen now?
Um, no, not now. Let's see. No, I just see an icon of you.
What about now?
Yeah, I do. I do. Bear with me. Ah, voila. Okay, you got it?
Yes, so I'm showing. I actually have 3 or 4 screens open on my computer. So
Okay, what we see the tab that says Tutor Mentor Institute LLC, and we see you moving your
right,
cursor.
right. So this is a blog that I have maintained for 15 years, and
Okay.
so there's a lot of information in it. Uh, I connect this library, the blog, to other websites. For instance, over here to the left, since I focus on youth tutor mentor programs, my featured post, if you click into that, which I'm going to do, so it says help youth tutor mentor and learning programs grow in Chicago area. And as you scroll down, this is a map that I created using a map list program
Mm-hmm.
that shows youth mentor programs. Each green icon is someone who does some form of tutoring and or mentoring in Chicago and in the region. So you can click on an icon and get the name of who that organization is. And you can zoom in and do this.
Oh, awesome.
There's a lot that I would share, but the best advice I give to people is to spend time going through the site, looking at the articles and reading. As I listened to you this morning, talking about how do nonprofits operate or respond to what's happening due to coronavirus. I think of the many small nonprofits who are really struggling because they don't have a team of people to do all of the different things that need to be done. They did not have that before, and they don't have it now.
Mm-hmm.
But as people find time to step back, which many will as they're sitting at home with no clients in their organizations, this is a good time to do some learning. And if you went through a process, I'm going to pull up another article over here. So down on the left side of the blog, there are tags for different types of conversation topics. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them down here is public health. And we're dealing with the public health crisis.
Oh, great.
So if you click into that link, this is going to bring up articles that have some relationship to public health. And in this first article, I'm showing how, again, you can use mapping to identify a geographic area that you're interested in. You could take a map like this and actually pull it up on your PowerPoint and put an overlay on that. So and this, I pulled up an enlargement from that tutor mentor map I showed a minute ago, and then
Mm-hmm.
I pasted it in PowerPoint, and then on PowerPoint I added for East Garfield Park the number of low-income kids age 6 to 17 in that community area. I
Wow.
could have on any one of these green icons, I could have put the name of the organization. If your organization is not on my map, then all you would need to do is add another bit of information to show where that is. And once you do that, you can then begin to think, who are all the other people within my geography, whether I define that as a block or as a community area or a ward or the city. Who are all the other people in my geography who do work similar to what I do? Who are the other organizations that I rely upon to do my work? And then I ask, as you plot that, you begin to say, how well are we connected to each other? Are we talking to each other via some format, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or email or LinkedIn? Are we talking to each other? And if we're not, how would I reach out to each of the green icons, for instance, on this map, introduce myself and say, hey, let's meet over on this place or that place and begin to get to know each other.
Okay, so, Dan. Okay, so in this age of new normal where we can't always get together, in fact, they're trying to limit the number of people who can gather, right? Which is kind of scary. What are the implications for this map and having this information when we have to do a lot of our work? We're being forced to do a lot of it virtually. Can this still be helpful to us in this day and age?
Yes. The first message here is that if you don't have a place where you're sharing information daily, usually meaning a blog, then you need to start one. And blogs are free to set up. You can set up a WordPress or whatever. So my blog is an example of what other people's blogs could look like.
Okay, gotcha.
And so that when you think of that map, each of those green icons, you ought to be able to click through that to their website or to a blog or both, where that organization is reflecting on what's going on. How has this affected me? Are my clients coming to my site still? Are we connected? Has my funding been cut off? How long is this going to last?
Gotcha.
So if people are having that conversation on their blogs, then the next step is, how do you reach out through Twitter and social media saying, look at my blog, I'll look at your blog, and then let's talk.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's really a strategy that should be happening all the time. But since we're now isolated from each other because of the quarantines, it's more important than ever that each organization have some place where they're saying, this is me, this is what I'm thinking about, this is my organization, this is what we do, these are the challenges that we're facing. What are you facing the same challenges? And
that's beautiful.
At some as that happens, then I created a graphic a couple of weeks ago. I've been attending the mayor's meetings for the anti-poverty and for the children's Every Youth Connected program. And I sat at the library, for instance, at a table with 4 or 5 people in a room with about 50 or 60 tables. And while we can hear the speakers, we can't hear each other. And we can't, other than with a few sound bites, no one really knows. There's no way I could go up to anyone in a few minutes and say, I'm Dan Bassel, this is everything I know.
Right.
It's impossible. Yet I could say, I'm Dan Bassel, here's my websites. If you're curious, why don't you go onto my websites and begin to learn everything I know? And then as you have questions, reach out to me and let's talk. And everyone else could be doing exactly the same thing. And in that way, we create a greater depth of understanding with each other. And what the map does is it shows that we share the same geography. And if we share the same geography, then we need to work together to overcome common challenges of available information, of technology resources, of dollar
Mm-hmm.
resources, of public awareness. Each of us trying to get that by ourselves is not nearly as successful as if each of us were working together to do the same thing.
Okay, that's great. You know what, too, Dan, as you were talking, I'm thinking about, just the potential, how powerful this could be. You could actually organize, virtually, right? And create a community response to whatever the issue is. It may be coronavirus today, right? But that kind of was your thinking when you started this, right? When you started this, you
Yeah,
wanted to give people the ability to have a community response to youth resources, the need to improve schools and programming alternatives and all that good stuff. So I do see where this could be very powerful in terms of uh, disaster preparedness as well, coming up with plans.
well, so I pulled up another article from February 2014, and the headline says, "Following bad news in the media," with the rest of the story. In this case, I put a screenshot of a newspaper story about a boy being shot in Rogers Park, and I used that as a what's the rest of the story. And as I scroll down, I show some maps of Rogers Park showing where that took place. And I begin to talk about how are ways that we could connect with each other to try to overcome the violence that's happening in different
Okay.
neighborhoods on a consistent basis. But then I go further, and I'm saying that young people could be creating and telling these stories.
Mm.
And this is when they say make something good out of a bad thing. Right now, with young people sitting at home saying, "What do I do?" There's no better time than to try to begin to reach out to them and say, "Why don't you create a blog talking about your neighborhood or a neighborhood you're interested in?" And begin
Mm-hmm.
to follow the newspaper stories, like this example. And this happened last night. This is where it happened. It's happened more than one time in this area. Here's some reasons why it happened: poverty, health disparities, poor schools, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
here's organizations already in the neighborhood trying to do something to prevent that, and then list existing non-school programs, whatever's there, or say, there's really not enough programs in this neighborhood. In other neighborhoods, they've got good programs. What can we do to mobilize people to build good programs in our neighborhood? That's a
Okay.
story, that's a story young people could be telling in a variety of different ways on a daily basis. And so go back to your map. Your map at some point those green icons could be places where young people are hosting their blogs or their videos, telling what's happening in their neighborhood and what the neighborhood needs now and in the future.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I am going to, Dan, if you don't mind, we're coming up on 11 o'clock and we started 15 minutes late. I'm going to see if Leighton is on and see if I can get him to come on. Leighton, are you there? And if so, did you want to come on the screen? And then, Dan, I say thank you so much. We're going to do a deeper dive in a couple weeks, sometime in April, where you can go through this process and people can start getting some ideas as to how they can do this, at home. So let me check and see if
Okay.
Leighton is here. He has not responded. Okay. No, he's not here. We have three people who are still here. We lost some people, because of the time. May Evans, did you want to share something? Did you want to come on screen? Did you want to post? And then Avi, I think that's how I pronounce your name. You just signed on. I know you missed most of this, but did you have any particular questions or concerns about this coronavirus and how nonprofits are dealing with it? Okay, well, if not, please, I'm encouraging everyone to listen to this recording. I'm encouraging everyone to download all of the handouts. There's some really, really good handouts, most of which I did not develop myself. I just compiled information that I thought was very good, very helpful, and it can last you way beyond the coronavirus situation. All right, so without further ado, we're going to get ready to close out. It doesn't look like anyone has any questions, but if you do, feel free to contact me at Valerie F. Leonard at nonprofitutopia.com. If you want to find out more about Nonprofit Utopia, go to nonprofitutopia.com or nonprofitutopia.mn.co. And Dan is telling us to connect with him on Twitter at Tutor Mentor Team. And Dan is always sharing really wonderful information. And this is just a sampling of information that he shares on a daily basis. And again, if you have any resources, please feel free to share. And even after this conversation is over, you'll get a link to this webinar and you can come back and post. And, we're going to keep running comments in the chat. And before we sign off, I really want to encourage you to complete the Forefront survey. And they are doing a survey. It's due tomorrow. I just got it yesterday, but complete the survey. They're trying to get a sense for how the coronavirus is impacting the nonprofit sector. So if you're having issues with the coronavirus, please share your experiences. They're in the process of advocating for additional resources for nonprofits that have been impacted. So it's really, really important that you complete that. All right, and have your voice heard. All right. So, Dan, again, I want to say thank you so much for sharing that. And I am looking forward to us scheduling another session where you can do a deeper dive and, kind of do a workshop, so to speak, a virtual workshop. And we missed Leighton Olson, and we'll catch him later as well. All right. So did you have any final comments, Dan, before we sign off?
No, thank you for organizing this and inviting me in. For anyone who's listening, look at the blogs, spend the time learning, not just from my site, but for the sites I point to, for the sites other people point to, and then share what you learned through your own blog and your own way of communicating.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So be sure and look at all of the links in the chat room. There's some great resources there. You have even more resources in the box folder. All righty. So I'm getting ready to sign off, and thank you guys again. We really appreciate your time. Take care. Bye-bye.